Oh, we just lost Commissioner Parham. We need him to come back or for Commissioner Lemons to join so we can still have quorum.
Have you heard from Commissioner Lemons if he can be here today?
I have not heard from him in about a week. He actually did an amazing presentation for the Neighborhood Leaders Council. He did a presentation on accommodating folks with disabilities for the meetings that we do with the city of Eugene. And it was actually excellent. He's a very, very eloquent and engaging speaker, and actually the council received it very well.
It looks like we have Dr. Booker and Commissioner Parham.
Okay. All right, then I'll go ahead and convene our meeting for the Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Subcommittee. Today is, what is today, Holly? Good grief. Thursday, April 4th, 2024. We have some follow-up items from the prior meeting. Dr. Booker, before we jumped into the prior items, Holly and I were unable to attend Dallas's service. Could you provide just a brief report? And it's just us on a personal level asking, not super official subcommittee police commission asking.
It was a very how should I put it? It was a very loving send-off. A lot of people
Good.
Showed up, pretty much filled up the McDonald Theater. It's everybody. Senator Manning spoke. I spoke. His sisters spoke. His brother spoke. And then several members of the community. It was a very, very loving send-off, and I think he would have been proud of it.
I'm so glad to hear that. I think even he would have been amazed at the huge impact that it made on our community with his passing.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
No worries.
So one thing we needed to do was review the February 6th minutes and the March 7th minutes. Holly did make some edits to the February 6th minutes, and were those included in the packet, Holly?
Yes.
Okay. Looks like.
I hope. Maybe not. Oh gosh. I did make the change that Commissioner Lemons requested, stating that Chief Skinner was going to address the Kristen Cardwell email during our police commission meeting in February. So.
Okay. I will move to approve the March minutes, or was that February minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Booker. And then for the Thursday, March 7th meeting minutes, we have those as well. These were provided by Lydia, correct, Holly? By our new minutes recorder. And so I'm looking for a motion to approve the March 7th minutes.
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't there.
Okay.
I can second it.
And Commissioner Parham, can you make the motion and then I'll go ahead and second?
I can make the motion to approve the minutes from
Thank you.
March 7th.
Thank you. I'll second. I guess we know Dr. Booker is abstaining, so I guess that creates a vote of 2, right, Holly?
Yes.
We all know that Robert's rules is apparently not my greatest strength. So that will take us into, thank you for helping us move quickly past that. I wanted to discuss a little bit more about the need for the post-critical incident mental health evaluation and the timeline that we have for having something for the chief to be able to take to negotiation with the union in the fall. It's my understanding that Sergeant Barong is out of the office until, when does she return, Holly? Well, when does she return to be able to be utilized by the police?
Right, it'll be the last part of May.
Okay. So is there any other resource at EPD that is able to at least get us a draft or some other policies from other agencies that we can compare, review, make some recommendations?
Right, so I need to run that past the chief since our policy analyst is out of the office. And so I'll need to find out from him who that person might be or what we could do to accommodate your request. So could you be a little bit more specific about the policies from other law enforcement agencies, like what you're hoping to gather?
It's my understanding that there is actually a database or a website of some sort that actually contains a lot of policies from other agencies. And I would like to look at some similar ones for agencies that are possibly the size of EPD or also within Oregon that are subject to the same Senate bill that we use for EPD.
Okay.
It's my understanding that it's a pretty standard policy for all of the agencies. And so if it's possible to obtain a copy of those, then at least maybe it's just as simple as we can review that and say, hey, we want this for EPD, or maybe we would have some recommendations or requests or clarifying questions. But I think at least that would give us the ability to start working on it before Sergeant Barong returns. And of course, she would have the best perspective on that, and the final decision is with the chief. But I would like for us to not be I guess, dead in the water until she comes back.
Okay. Yeah, I'll follow up with chief and see what we can do.
Thank you. Commissioner Booker, Commissioner Parham, any additional comments on that request?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Not at this
Okay.
time.
All right. Well, that was quick. You guys are making this a quick meeting. I like this. New police rest stop. I wanted to let you know that outside of the police commission, I actually engaged with Willamette Christian Center. My husband and I are members of that church. It's on 18th and Hawkins. And they have actually established a new rest stop for the law enforcement officers within one of their buildings. They actually went to quite a bit of work with the security company to reorganize the alarm system so it was completely off of the alarm grid. So it'll be another private secured area for officers to write reports, maybe do some debriefing, sometimes take a break. If they ever get a few minutes to take a break, it'll be supplied with snacks and coffee, beverages, and things like that for the officers to just drop in quickly for a few minutes and help themselves to some refreshment or get a little bit of time to relax in between calls. Again, that's at the Willamette Christian Center. Cove Church on 18th started the first one in Eugene. Willamette Christian Center now has the second one. And that was rolled out 2 Sundays ago during actually the Seder service. And it was very well received with the congregation. Folks were for the most part, we're very pleased that this is a resource available to EPD. It was also published on Facebook by the pastor of Willamette Christian Center. And as always, there's going to be some social media folks who aren't necessarily the greatest fans of the idea, but it was overwhelmingly a positive reaction that was gained from the community on that one. This was based on from when I had done some ride-alongs in Portland. Portland has quite a few of the police rest stops scattered all throughout the city. And so it was an idea that was brought to Eugene, and now our city's starting to put that into effect. Just a point of clarification on that, no taxpayer dollars are going into that. It is being privately funded and supported by members of Willamette Christian Center. So moving on to the next item, we have Dr. Clary Boos with us, who is an amazing person, but I actually don't know your title, Clary. I just know you're a really good person who helps a lot with really good things.
You're too kind. I am the acting strategic initiatives manager. It is in the office of the chief. I do report to the chief directly, but I kind of have my finger in a bunch of different pies around the department. Not least to mention grant writing, which I understand is why I'm here today.
Thank you for that. I never would have remembered any of that. So thank you for providing that detail on there. Last year, Dr. Booker, you probably remember the police commission signed a letter of support for a grant that the city was writing to stand up law enforcement specific response, mental health response. We were not awarded that grant. And so Clarie, as I understand it, is writing the grant to submit again this year. And so, Clarie, I would love for you to go into some detail about what we're looking for, how the Police Commission can support, and I'm hoping again that you will draft a letter for us to sign on behalf of the Police Commission.
Sure. So the grant itself is part of the Department of Justice's COPS office, which stands for Community Oriented Policing Services. And it is a grant that's been offered. I think this is the third fiscal year in a row that it's been offered. We did apply last year and unfortunately weren't successful. And so we're retooling what we're asking for in our strategy around trying to get that funding. It is not due until the end of this month. And so there's quite a few balls still up in the air. Unfortunately, I wish I would be able to provide you guys with more detail or even a draft of it today, but unfortunately I cannot. So I'm going to talk kind of broadly about what we're hoping to ask for, or what we're going to ask for and hopefully receive funding for. And I'm happy to answer any questions. So the strategy this year is to detail and articulate all of the different types of pieces of our more holistic wellness program that includes both physical fitness as well as our peer support team. It's my understanding that Emily McCauley was just recently in front of you guys giving you a rundown of all of the services that our peer support team provides to the department. So I won't rehash all of those details, but it's quite extensive. They do a lot of really good and important work. And so, you know, in addition to our peer support team, we have mindfulness yoga, we have a quiet room, we have a gym and a fitness center. We've provided other types of health screenings. We have dedicated chaplains that we provide. And of course, employees all have access to mental health resources through their employer provided health insurance, as well as the city's primary EAP. And last year, if you remember, the issue with around accessing those services, specifically for our sworn officers, is the lack of guaranteed confidentiality around those discussions with mental health providers. And so we had asked for what is called a law enforcement specific EAP that would be funded outside of the city. For reasons I could only speculate, we were not chosen for that grant. So instead this year we are going to be approaching it a little bit more directly, and we are going to be asking for funding primarily for mental health services to be administered either annually or biannually. This is one of the questions I still have up in the air that needs to be answered around cost, because the maximum amount of funding that we could receive is $200,000 to be spread over 2 years. And as you can imagine, that money goes pretty quick when you're talking about mental health or any kind of health related services. And so we are hoping to have either biannual or semi-annual check-ins that would be voluntary, completely confidential, and housed off-site from EPD for our officers, our call takers and dispatchers, and our crime scene technicians. Those are the three groups that the COPS office grant solicitation is targeting specifically. We would provide that to them as an annual check-in. And it would be something that would hopefully be able to be expanded with additional funding from the city or perhaps another grant opportunity to offer those types of services more frequently and across perhaps a variety of contexts. So for example, maybe even on-site services, as well as virtual appointments that our staff could access, you know, because telehealth is all the rage. We are in the 21st century, and so that would be a really nice feature to have to be able to provide. Another thing that we want to do is ask for funding to provide more suicide awareness prevention training, suicide awareness and prevention training, as well as some financial health training. If there is space and money in the budget, we would like to ask for support services for family members of our officers and call takers and dispatchers and our forensic evidence technicians. but but like I said, you know, we haven't been able to nail down or finalize the budget quite yet. And as soon as we do, we'll know exactly what we'll be able to ask for. And I will, as soon as it is finalized and submitted, send over a copy to you, Jensina, through Holly, so that you guys can take a look at what we officially asked for.
Clary, do you have any inkling on if that will be available by the 11th? Our police commission meeting is on the 11th, when the commission would be able to vote on our support of that.
The 11th of May?
Of this month.
Oh, you mean next
Because
week?
you said that the submission was due at the end of
Yeah.
this month, but our only meeting before that is next week.
Is next week. I think the chances are fairly slim. Like I said, I'm waiting for, I have meetings scheduled with clinicians to talk about the program, and with our finance team to discuss the putting together the grant budget, as well as our peer support supervisors to talk about how they will be integrated into the process, that sort of thing. It's just obviously scheduling everyone. It's difficult. I would love to say that I had this finished and submitted and off my plate by the 11th. That would be amazing. But I think it'd be a little dangerous if I committed to that.
Commissioners Booker and Parham, do you have questions for Dr. Booth?
Yes, is any of the grant money going towards like basically community officer conflict resolution?
Oh, that's a really good question. This specific grant has fairly stringent and strict requirements, and that is not an area that they have identified as being funded. So we will not officially be asking for money for anything like that.
Okay, I just for record, I would like this to be something we kind of, not you specifically, Dr. Booth, but basically we just, something we should think about in the future is to kind of create some kind of community officer conflict resolution, mental health services. Just because I know in the past, there's a lot of what I would call negative residue from past interactions with former EPD officers, et cetera. And I just think that if that mental health service was provided, it gives the community a bridge to kind of relate where there's no cultural understanding or connection. It gives the community more of a bridge to connect more with officers that they might not necessarily culturally understand or connect with.
Yeah,
Especially
I appreciate that. Excuse me.
Oh, sorry. Just especially just given the demographic of the Eugene population. That's just what I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Post-conflict reconciliation, it has long been known to be beneficial both to police and the community that is impacted by police activity. And so I'd be interested in looking into that and discussing further. And it might actually land in my shop, to be honest. So I don't mind at all taking a little bit of time to hear about it. But yeah, unfortunately, that's just not part of the grant solicitation.
Yes, ma'am. And then, Chair, I would like to ask. I don't know if this is something that can be done, but I know she mentioned a lot of holistic services that the grant was going to go towards. If maybe at some point when these services are established, as if the police commissioners could attend all of them at some point to just kind of get an understanding of how these services are being ran and how they're being offered. I wouldn't mind going to do yoga, and just maybe sit in long some peer support. I don't know how open that is. I don't know if that falls along HIPAA or not, but maybe sit in maybe some of the peer support classes, talk to some of the chaplains to see if there's a wide range of religious services being provided, and how those are being provided. If they're talking to multiple churches throughout the city, you know, from temples to mosque to those type of things, or if it's just Christian type of churches that are offering and are helping, maybe how we can integrate more religious institutions into this to widen community involvement, seeing that the what was that? Willamette Christian Center offered to step up. And then what was the other one? And then also just in terms of mental health services, how are those being what's the word? Being provided? When you say mental health services biannual and annual, is it somebody that the grant is going to hire, or because I know you alluded to people having their own insurance? How is those mental health services being distributed?
Yeah. So one of the things that we're hoping, one of the things that the COPS office acknowledges over and over and over again in the literature that they put out is the importance of having cultural competency around law enforcement, the law enforcement field, and that your mental health providers have that cultural competency. And so one of the things that our mental health system is lacking in this community are an abundance of these type of providers, as you can imagine. And so in our grant, we will be asking specifically for those that have that cultural competency, and it will be an outside, like I said, a clinician of some sort that provides mental health services. The structure of that and what that would look like, I've yet to have those meetings, and I don't want to, I would sure hate to say something that was inaccurate. So I can't speak to the details of that, but they would occur off campus. It would be annual or biannual, and it would have that cultural competency component as well as the heavy confidentiality component. Because again, the COPS office, it's actually one of the questions on the application that specifically asks us to state how we are going to maintain confidentiality around those sessions. And if you can't demonstrate that you can do that, you're not going to get the funding.
Okay. Thank you. And then just Chair, just for the future, something I would like to think about just in terms of mental health, since we are that committee, is some way to reward the good cops, the cops that we never hear about, those police officers that show up every day, do the best job that they know how to do, go, and they are never highlighted. And I think focusing on that mental health, maybe some kind of, I don't know, I hate to use the word reward, but merit, a merit system for those good officers that have outstanding records that we never hear about. Just something to kind of just put out there that we should kind of focus on too. I don't know if the grant focuses on that, but it's just something that came to mind that I would love to focus on those cops that never get recognition, that actually are really good police officers.
Dr.
Yeah,
Becker, you're on a roll today. I am impressed with your recommendations.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
there have been, I'll share with you that in the section that I led, one of the first questions that I had asked was how we can give, for lack of a better term, like you said, rewards based on merit. And because of the nature and structure of our union and their heavy emphasis on equality, it is actually harder than you think it should be. And I completely respect the union's position and where they're coming from. I don't know if you know it, but we do have annual employee awards where employees are given awards. They're nominated by their fellow employees. So those that have seen their meritorious service in action. And so we will be having that award ceremony, I think next month. Next month, which is always really wonderful to hear about all the good stuff that's happening. And then, of course, the commendations that come in from the community members. We do get those. The chief gets to see those every week, I believe. Don't hold me to that. And he makes a point of calling out that good work during in-service.
Okay. Thank you.
I actually love that idea, Dr. Booker, and I'm actually thinking one of the things that we could do from the police commission standpoint is at the very least, because we do receive those commendations as part of our meeting packet, at the very least, we could call those out at the beginning of our meeting. We could probably make just a standing 2 to 5 minutes on the agenda just to call those out on public record, because I think that's an excellent point, and I love where you're going with that. You had asked another question about possibly attending some of these in-services and the trainings that they do. I know that previously I've asked for access to those and have not necessarily been, the idea hasn't gotten very far. But I think that we're within our rights to ask for reports or synopses of these things that are going on, because I think it is, personally, I think it's fascinating. I don't even know if we have the right or if it's in our purview, but I think it's fascinating to see the things that are being provided to our officers. And so we can track that down and possibly have the chief speak a little bit more as far as what EPD can provide to the police commission as far as opportunities there or more detailed information.
Yeah, it's just good to know if these services are even being utilized, or if they even have the time to utilize them. Could be getting, because it could be money best spent elsewhere. If they're, say for instance, they only have like maybe 5 or 6 cops doing yoga, and most of the cops are doing the chaplain thing, or most of the cops are doing the massage thing, or just put the money where it's best utilized for the officers' mental health, rather than just throwing money in a pot and saying, hey, this is what we're doing, type of thing.
To be clear, we don't have a program that administers massage. I just want to put it out there.
That was me thinking.
We know who the first person would be to utilize that if it was there.
That's right. I know exactly what.
That was my wishful thinking.
Yeah, we do through our employer provided health insurance package. I believe one of the types of packages you can get is like a dozen or so massages a year. And I know several people, myself included, opt for that package, although I think I only went once last year. So
do we have the ability to look at that package? Like,
the
what's the
benefits
package?
Yeah, it's not unique to EPD. It's the city of Eugene. So
Okay,
they, I'm sure, have it posted somewhere on one of their websites. I'm absolutely sure. And you can take a look at all of the different options that people have. I don't remember, it was several years ago now that I was going through and picking those options, but we have very good insurance, nice benefits.
Yeah, I know.
Holly, would you be able to help us track that down?
Yes, and you can find it on the City of Eugene's website. If you go to, City of Eugene and you probably type in benefits, but I'm happy to track that information down and get that for you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I do want to add, real quick that just recently we had a local massage therapist reach out to me to see about providing some chair massages, like 10-15 minute chair massage for staff as appreciation. And so PSERT, Emily McCauley, is working with her to get that going. So that will be coming soon for our department members, which is going to be really, really nice. So we do have community members, business owners that do step up and offer their services as a way to show appreciation from time to time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, me being a retired military, it's one of the things that the VA offers us. And I know that it works wonders to go once a week or twice a week and get a massage. It kind of just, just release. So yeah, it is very good for mental health.
That's fantastic, Holly.
Before we move on, I don't know if you guys have any more questions for me, but you had asked if I could articulate what the police commission could do to help in our efforts with this. One of the things that I need to be able to demonstrate is that we have a plan moving forward of how we're going to sustain the type of programming that the grant funding is going to be paying for. And I think that after the grant, has been submitted and if we are successful, I would love to lean on you folks in terms of helping us to secure maybe additional funding from the city to keep a project like this going, or even expand it. That would be really fantastic.
Yeah, I can't imagine that you would receive any pushback from anybody on this committee or on POCO in general, Clary.
Well, when the budget's tight, but
right, we all want all the dollars for all of our committees and all of our commissions. But yes, I think I would not be out of line by saying unequivocally that we'd be happy to support your request or to demonstrate our support in any requests made like that. Commissioners Booker and Parham, I'm at a loss right now on how to deal with how to get police commission in general on board with this before Clarice's submission deadline at the end of the month. I hate to put something nebulous out there and ask them to vote on something that they can't see. Do either one of you feel comfortable with documenting the bullets as Dr. Booth has laid them out and presenting those bullets, the ones that we know for sure, not necessarily the things that are more up in the air, like the annual versus biannual, but just the things like the mental health check-ins, and being able to put that in a package that we can recommend at police commission. I think it's important for the police commission to know that this is going on, and especially for them to be able to express their support, whether we're able to do it in a letter that accompanies your application, or even just to have it on public record that our community that we represent is in support of this grant that you're writing.
I think if it's framed in the latter half of the way that you just presented it, I think that I would feel comfortable like presenting something like that to the police commission.
Would you be willing to take that on, Commissioner Parham? It's been a little awkward, honestly, being the interim chair and presenting the updates for the subcommittee. And so would you be willing to take an opportunity to step up and present the update to police commission, as well as our recommendation for police commission to support this grant?
Yeah, I feel comfortable doing that. Just as long as I can get like all the material, which I don't have in front of me right now because I'm currently in transit. But
That's fine.
yeah, I feel comfortable doing that.
Okay,
That would
Holly,
be for next week.
yes, Holly, how quickly do you think we would be able to get the Zoom recording or the minutes to Commissioner Parham?
I can get the Zoom recording right away after our meeting today, but the minutes, Lydia has about a month to get those, so
Okay.
that's a little out, but definitely the Zoom recording.
Okay, excellent. Then we will make sure to include that. Clary, what would be most helpful for you? Does having a letter signed by the police commission help you at all, or is it just more of, at this point, making sure that EPD is aware that the community supports this? You're still on mute.
4 years post-pandemic, and I'm still making these mistakes. And also the joke that everybody else makes. It definitely, for sure, the latter. You know, we have limited space for uploading. I don't know exactly how many sites of attachment that we have, but I know that they are limited, and our grant administrator has cautioned me against having too much. We have several letters of support. And so I don't think we have room for another one. But like I said, you know, getting that support for the continuation of a program is really, that would be really, really helpful.
Okay. All right. Any additional questions for Dr. Booth?
No, not at all. Thank you, Dr. Booth. I really appreciate. I think maybe in the future we might want to talk to you again, seeing that you're the strategy manager, just outside of the normal grant writing thing, kind of dive a little bit more into what you strategize and what you manage strategizing. But yeah, but that could come at a later time, because I'm really interested in your position. But yeah, but just focusing on mental health. Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Okay. So I will go back to sharing my screen. And so part of what I wanted to do today is preview a little bit of the policies that we'll be reviewing at Police Commission next week. One of the things that I think we can be helpful with is providing a recommendation from the subcommittee. I think during Police Commission, our conversations tend to get a little bit derailed with a whole bunch of individual questions. And I think if we can come together as a committee and make some recommendations, that we may be able to move forward more quickly in our Police Commission meetings. one of the things that the chief had expressed was a willingness to review policy 1015 with us, particularly as far as who actually is able to interview or, I guess, approve applicants to the special teams units. And so the selection process currently, if I understand it correctly, Holly, the selection is done by the existing team. And or do you have more clarification?
Right, it's usually consists of one or two team members, and then you'll have like the sergeant of the team. And sometimes they'll even, you know, pull in someone else from the department to sit in on that panel.
And if I understand correctly from the police commission, we would like to have the opportunity to have a civilian representative or somebody from the community as well, who's able to help in those selection processes. And the chief had expressed some openness to considering that. So in the 1015.3, I think it would be good if we could bring up recommendation that of bringing in a paragraph of a member of the community or somebody who is not specifically part of that team already to help for purposes of equity and inclusion. And of course, this conversation came up from the email from Officer Cardwell, who stated that her impression was that females are not necessarily promoted to these teams because of some inherent bias. And so by opening the selection team to perhaps a member or two of the public, we should be able to help frame that selection process a little bit more equitably. Commissioner Parr, I think your hand went up first, but you've been really quiet, so I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, I also think in that paragraph, the biggest area of opportunity is the actual selection process and the criteria that's being used to select team members to the teams like SWAT and detective. So I think there possibly may be some wiggle room in terms of like yearly, like the tenure requirement, and also possibly like the teams that the people have already been on. That maybe the wording in those could be changed. That could allow for maybe possibly like some I don't want to say like special cases, but also to correlate with the handout that was given about women in law enforcement. That was one of the suggestions that they made, that you can like change the requirements on the teams.
That's interesting. We may get some pushback, but I think it's worth exploring. I will say that at the bottom of page 9, the final paragraph says that process administrators may add other components to the testing process, i.e. a community panel, or add additional qualities for the performance review. I think that paragraph in particular may be something where we can dive in and say that another component for the testing process with a community panel member should be required, not just may be added if somebody feels like involving the community. I will say that I don't know exactly what we would ask a community member to do or how a community member would be informed of the requirements for a position. So for example, if we have a bunch of applicants for SWAT, if I was asked to sit on a panel asking who should be put on the SWAT team, I wouldn't know exactly what I'm looking for to make a recommendation. Dr. Booker.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was kind of going to allude to. I think the same way that human rights has liaisons, I think the best person or people to be a part of that might be maybe the police commission can have a liaison for this particular review board or picking because I think we kind of define and kind of describe what makes an ideal candidate just by the fact that we go through so much policy. I don't see why we couldn't learn, you know, because I'm pretty sure they have all of these different areas defined, what is a SWAT team member, what SWAT team does, what they're looking for. And then along with the policy that we kind of go through with a fine tooth comb, I think having a liaison from the police commission might be the most ideal person. And it would also help us to continue our learning and growing as police commissioners as to understanding these different compartments and teams and specialties that are within the police commission. Because we're so defined as just being policy people, recommendations for policy. But we know we do way more than just that. We are the voice of our communities. We are that last final line between right and wrong, between what the police officers, how they conduct themselves, the way they operate. That's all policy related. So I think maybe having a liaison from the police commission might be ideal. And then as a police commission, we can vote on that particular police commissioner that wants to be that liaison. And now we have to do their homework and growing and learning and exploring what these different departments are. And then they could sit on a panel because then they would know. I think just us learning about policy and exploring policy and recommending policy doesn't really challenge our knowledge to grow as police commissioners. And I feel like this opens another door for us to grow, learn, explore, be a part of, understand the officers in which we're supposed to be making policy to govern. So with our recommendations going to city council, so to speak, I think this gives us more of a relationship as police commissioners with the police officers, rather than just us being policymakers that sit back and say, this is what you guys can't do. This is what we think you should not do. Actually put us in there to actually learn, discover, grow, educate ourselves beyond just policy recommendations. But that's just something I just wanted to bring to your attention, Chair.
I love it because yes, we are chartered to work on policies, but also to create that relationship between the community and EPD. And so I think that if we can flesh that out a little bit as a recommendation, it's worth a try. I don't know if we would have to take that recommendation to the chief or to city council if we're going to designate a liaison, because the liaison may be something more official. I am in support of that. I don't know how far we'll get with it. But I think you bring up really good points there. Commissioner Parham?
Yeah, I was just curious, Dr. Booker, do you think it should be like that the responsibility should fall to the chair, or do you feel that we should actually elect someone to officially be that voice?
It'd be good if we elect it, because in that way we know people that want, if you volunteer, say for instance, I volunteered. I know in my mind, I'm taking on a responsibility that it is now my responsibility, since I raised my hand to do so, to learn what the SWAT team does, what they're looking for, how they've promoted in the past, what were the requirements and the scale that they use to promote those people in the past. You learning the history so that we could be more effective in the present. And then understanding what those departments do. What does SWAT stand for example? Even knowing the basic definitions of what these positions are, so that when we hear a complaint from a well-decorated officer that no females are being given an opportunity, no females are this, or I'm being, I'm not giving, we don't just go in flying off the handle and say, oh, you guys being sexist, you guys aren't giving females an opportunity. We have an understanding of the reasoning behind the decision-making, what they're looking for. Maybe they're not hitting certain physical fitness elements. Maybe it's, I don't know, but if we don't know, it's hard to make policy around things we don't know. So I kind of feel like it should be voted on. And then that way, whoever volunteers, that person is volunteering to take on a responsibility of educating themselves to make the best decision so that they are effective in their recommendation, not just because, oh, I like this officer or something to that extent. They actually are being a part of the process based off education, not perception.
You know, I'm thinking it wouldn't necessarily always have to be the same person for every selection process either, because that may be quite a lot for one commissioner to handle. But if if the chief or if the city council is open to this suggestion at all, it could be a case of maybe SWAT is particularly interesting and a passion point for Dr. Booker, but maybe I want to know more about, I don't know, canine officers. But I I think it's definitely good to have on the table for consideration. And I don't know how much leeway we have as far as a community panel goes. I don't know if a community panel means multiple people from the community or who actually designates that community panel. I would like for us to be able to at least recommend that a community member is required to be on these things. And I don't know even if we can get that far with that, but I would love that to be our recommendation.
Yeah. It just, I guess the reason why I was feeling like a random community member, because and I can attest to this, there's a lot of bias that goes into the perception of police officers based off of our own, history, based off the way we grew up, how we were treated in the past. But being a part of police commission, you get to be a part of the understanding that there's two sides to everything. Everything's not all good. Everything is not all bad. And being a police commissioner, you have to be objective. You can't. You have to be open. You can't rule with an iron thumb, so to speak, and blanket all these officers. It has really opened me to understanding the good and bad of everything. So that's why I choose to focus on the good. I choose to focus on how do we help elevate our police officers, because those are the people who are going to protect us. So, but growing up, the perception was, I don't trust any cops. I don't trust any police officers. They're all bad. Given the history of the slave patrol squads that they used to have, and the history behind policing and what they were used for in terms of cultural understanding and history of this country, it gives you really have a really one-sided perception. But as I've gone on this journey of learning and being a part of a bigger picture, you see that there are a lot of good officers. There are a lot of good officers, and I think way more than bad. But we have a tendency just to focus on the bad. So just being a part of this just gives you a bigger understanding. That's why I would go more so to somebody that's involved in the policy rather than a random community member, because you don't know what kind of biases they're bringing with them, and it's kind of hard to weed them out, so to speak, because we all have everybody has biases, but you don't know if they're bringing an open mind to the table when it comes to making a good selection or giving the police commission or the police force the best recommendation, and it's coming from a good place. So I think the fact that we are involved in the policy, we have to be open, we have to be optimistic. I think the voting should come from within, because we already are the public, so that was just my idea of not choosing a random community member, maybe from within type of committee. Same way we did the subcommittee here. I mean, 3 people volunteered, me, you, Commissioner Parham, and Commissioner Scott, and boom, here we go. We have a mental health committee just like that. So I feel like the same could be done with maybe exploring these different teams. We vote on the committee, and our homework is to do exactly what we're doing right now. Do our homework, make sure we're providing the best recommendations for mental health. Same way with these committees, make sure that we're learning, understanding what these different teams and specialties do, and giving the best recommendation to the chief based off of our knowledge and understanding of what we're tasked to do.
That was really well thought out and well put. I like it, and I'm actually kind of curious now about the idea of having a selection recommendation subcommittee. I will say that I feel that the chief has been very judicious previously when he's involved community members in promotion processes. I know last year he had Miles Pendleton the president, the then president of the NAACP, had him involved with some of the selection panels. And so from what I have seen, Chief Skinner does reach out as equitably as possible. But I like where we get the thought about we are the ones who are already involved and already have a vested interest in seeing this work out for the city of Eugene, because we report to the city of Eugene. We don't report to EPD, we report to city council. And so I like where you're going with that, and I'm certainly open to exploring that.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other comments about policy 1015 before we take it to police commission next Thursday?
I guess what I was trying to say was special accommodations. If there could
Oh.
be special accommodations that could be made in the selection of certain officers that would overlook lack of tenure or lack of experience in certain areas.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up, because it brings in the question of equity, but at the same time could also devolve away from equity, I think, in a lot of situations. Do you have specific examples or scenarios that where you would picture this?
I think there could be like key instances that would be able to kind of squash those like equity and like lack of equity in terms of merit, and if their merit in other areas could possibly qualify them. So like they may not have the tenure to be taken for like the SWAT team, but they have accommodations that strengthen their candidacy in other areas that you could use to kind of like kind of supplant that lack of tenure or lack of experience.
That's interesting. I don't know how far we would get with a recommendation for that, but because I think if we tried to do that, we would need to kind of overhaul the matrix altogether.
I think it would be it would just be following the recommendations that were sent from who had originally who said they were wanting to like do the survey. I can't remember their name, but it would be following the recommendations that were sent in that handout, the Women in Law Enforcement guidebook. Because other departments have done this to address issues of inequity.
I have to say, you've gotten farther with that handout than I have, because I hadn't even read that far into it. So I welcome your input on that, and I think that bringing that as well to Police Commission on next Thursday would be fantastic. You better watch it, Commissioner Parham. I'm about to make you the designated person giving the report out to Police Commission.
He on the roll. I was like, yes, he hitting it.
Right? I mean, you're putting the work into it, you're doing the background, and you're really well stated. So if you want to take that on, I am more than happy to give you the floor for the updates from the subcommittee to Police Commission.
You can handle this next one, and we'll see about doing May's.
Okay. Well, you are taking the thing about the COPS grant from Dr. Booth. That one is
correct.
You've committed to that one. I'm not letting you back.
I've committed to that. I'll knock that out the park.
Okay.
Chair Hawkins.
Yes.
I want to share something that I think came out in the information from Officer Kirsten Cardwell that she shared is, and I'm just maybe proposing that maybe the subcommittee might want to look at this, but I know in regards to equality and equity, I know some of the special teams like SWAT in the past, they haven't had areas for the female officers to change or have a locker. And so that might be something that the subcommittee might want to look at is creating those opportunities for women, people that identify as a female, to have the same things, lockers, changing rooms, access to bathrooms, stuff like that. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I think that's an excellent point, Holly, and it falls directly under the, I believe it falls under the accommodations kind of things.
Mhm.
We're not necessarily asking for, it's not, being a woman is not a disability, but at the very least, they should actually have the same kind of changing facilities that the men have.
Yeah, I agree. I think it speaks volumes, volumes when there isn't an area already.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You're already kind of isolating, alienating, disregarding. If they're, you're pretty much saying it's an all boys club. If if there is nothing there to accommodate females, so yes, that is the first. I think the first step is to say that this isn't an all boys club, and we have the facilities, we have the areas of accommodation for females as well as males, and I think that would incentivize them, if they have these areas, to make sure that those areas are utilized by making sure they have more females. So yes, Holly, thank you for bringing that up, because that is the first step, is to make sure that there are areas of accommodation. That speaks, sometimes without even formulating a policy around it, is why don't you have anything to accommodate females to begin with?
And it could certainly encourage more diversity in the applicant pool.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep, I like it, Holly. So we will tackle that in our next meeting as far as what sort of recommendations we can make to Chief Skinner and to the police commission in general. Do we have any closing comments today from Dr. Booker or Commissioner Parham?
No, I'm so glad we got to speak with Dr.
Oops.
Dr. Bruce. Very helpful. Hope, and the fact that she's a grant writer, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, we need her.
Yes, definitely. Just so glad that she came and spoke with us, and I think this committee has been so detrimental and way beyond needed. But I'm glad that we formed it. So thank you, Chair, for even putting this together and making sure that we have this platform to dive into the other aspects of policy, rather than just, what we initially started off with, that first little get together we had all the stickers on the board, and so it's been such a breath of fresh air to be able to do more than just work on assigned policy. This has been really eye-opening, and it's really helped to understand what I said earlier about good cops, bad cops, understanding that there's more good than bad, and what's needed in order to create and sustain a really good and positive police force. So thank you, Chair, and thank you, Holly, for everything you're doing. You're amazing.
Well, it's certainly our privilege to serve. Commissioner Parham?
No, just thank you. And I was supposed to drop off earlier, but I pushed my appointment out just a little bit so I could be on here.
Oh, thank you
So,
so much. I'd
yeah.
forgotten that I promised we could get you out of here at 12:30.
Yeah,
All
so-
right. Well, I will go ahead and adjourn us. And hey, 2 minutes to spare, y'all.
Take care.
You have a wonderful afternoon.
Cool.
Bye-bye.